I am dark and you are light.
You are blind as a bat and I have sight. We're talking salt and pepper.
You are white.
You are black. And who cares? Who cares, baby?
Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display. So today we're going to have a quick look at two figures that are a little bit on the older side, but oddly enough still in circulation. So of course both of these are Alien related. So on the left we have Apone. This is the Kenner tribute figure, so that means it pretty much is trying to reference off of figures that were released oh so long ago in the 90s. Oh 90s, how I miss you. We also have the Big Chap Xenomorph, but this time in its prototype depiction, which is meant to harken back to the concept art used to inspire the original Alien movies. So it's really interesting. We still see NECA figures once in a while kind of just float through Targets here and there when they have no business being there. I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad or they're particularly good or anything. It's just they're usually, when we see NECA figures roll out, they very quickly disappear. But when it comes to Target, sometimes you see NECA figures that could be around 5 years old. I think Apone was like 2019 or something like that. So, I don't know, it's just interesting how the market works out, but no complaints for me and no complaints for you. That just means we get access to more stuff. Apone's still pretty easy to acquire. When I was looking online, it seemed like he was pretty accessible. But as for the Prorotype Xenomorph, it seems like he's a little bit more dicey to get. But regardless, I have them both, and we're going to have a little look at them today, because why not? Retrospectives are always good. So let's go ahead and start with Apone, who's a little bit more on the unique side. As I mentioned before, Apone is a Kenner tribute figure, which essentially means NECA is referencing the old Kenner figures that they released in the 90s, and they're basically giving them a tried and true modern upgrade. So they take the original designs, then they pump them full of the new scaling, new articulation, new accessories, new paint of course, and pretty much just beef them out. So I imagine if you're growing up in the 90s, unlike me, I was a 99 kid, then these are pretty exciting. As for the box though, it's in the clamshell, which as you know is my favorite type of action figure packaging. Please note my sarcasm. I hated opening this thing, but regardless, we got it open and it's a very cool box when you look past a giant plastic like, what do you call it? Horribleness. It's horrible. I hate clamshells so much. You still get that really awesome retro 90s deco going throughout with those really popping saturated colors, which is a love and hate within the pop culture zeitgeist, but I personally adore it. We have Apone down here, or maybe it's Apone, but I've heard it pronounced Apone, so that's what we're sticking with, but he looks really cool over there. Nothing really on the sides, just transparent. Off to the back, we have some other releases for the time that also kind of indicates this figure's age. Again, this kind of came out around 2019. I saw it somewhere on the box, don't remember where. Got a little bit of a trading card here that you can clip out if you'd like to keep some of the bios on Apone. I do have that binder where I keep all my McFarlane cards, so I might do that similarly over here just for fun. We also have some video game tribute characters along this side. We got some Preds, we got some Aliens, looking really good. And then down here we have some other miscellaneous figures from the line. Used to have Spike Tail, but that figure kept falling apart in my hands. Again, it was old NECA, so this figure comes from a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Off to the bottom, we got the artist who made this figure possible, along with our true friends,
Green Arrow.
Naturally,
Sad Audience!
And now here is Apone, a figure that I've seen before in stores, but I've never really paid a whole ton of mind to. But this time as I was passing through a local Target, I saw him and I was like, he's a figure I should have gotten by now. I mean, I'm not necessarily an Apone fan, he only appeared very briefly in the second Aliens movie, but still he's a very good figure to get if you're an avid Alien or Predator collector. Especially because we don't really get a whole lot of just standard human-sized characters in the NECA line in general. We're usually getting the big old monsters or intergalactic monsters and stuff like that. So it is nice to have just a standard human that we can use in our size comparisons in the future. Before I was using things like RoboCop and Terminator, but those guys are a little too big, so now we just got a human with a few little cybernetic nuances to improve him just a little bit. Pulling on in, this is Apone in a look that is not familiar if you're watching the movies. In there, he had his usual colonial marine garb, which was kind of just usual military green camo, but here it's a little bit more stylized, as is the Kenner line from back in the 90s. And I guess this could infer several things. Either one, he survived aliens and this is what he came out looking like afterwards, or maybe this is what he looks like in his younger years, this time a little bit more hip and hoppin' with the hat backwards and the yellow no bug shirt looking really cool. As for the likeness on the face, honestly, not too bad. I think the one thing that he's missing, though, would be a cigar. I think that would be absolutely kick-ass to have, but regardless, every detail on this figure is really cool. Down to the torso, we got our no bug shirt, sleeveless, ripped off sleeves. I'm just noticing, very cool. Going around to the back, we have this big ol' harness that also hinges on his cybernetically enhanced arm, which is absolutely fantastic. As I've said before, I've had the NECA Terminator, the T-800 to be more exact, the endoskeleton more precisely, and I still to this day cite that as one of the worst NECA figures I've ever handled, mostly because it had a lot of hydraulic pieces that kept falling off on me, and that was only the tip of the iceberg with that. But over here, we again see some hydraulics, but this time it actually works very well. You can see I'm moving it in several directions here, but everything seems to kind of just gravitate right into place. Nothing feels like it's going to break off or going to snap. It just feels really good. Obviously, you bend it far enough, then those two parts will come undone, but you just gotta match them up again and slot them together, and then they're fine. So yeah, just a really cool little add-on to this figure. Honestly, if you didn't have a cybernetic arm, I wouldn't be as interested, but it gives them just that extra little bit of flavor. I really like that. Going down to the pants, standard olive green, looking really good. I really love sculpted details. Kind of reminds me of the Planet of the Apes figures that we looked at recently. Then we also have some really awesome looking combat boots. Looking really sweet. Boots are not just boots this time. They're actually quite appealing. Now, if you've ever had a Kenner tribute figure from NECA, you know this is where things get a little bit strange as we move on to the accessories. So the first thing he has is actually his most conventional, being a really cool looking shotgun. Very good for killing bugs, I'm sure. But I really like the paint apps that they have. They have silver going more towards the front, and then they got more of a dark gunmetal in the back. Also have a black scope over here. Then we got a strap for his shoulder, so let's go ahead and test that out. It looks like it's a little rounder up top towards the buttstock, so let's just go ahead and slot that over that hand, and that looks... Alright, let's try it again. It does look pretty good. You kind of got to find a sweet spot, just pull it past the harness a little bit, and then it kind of stays, yeah, right there, so you could definitely get that over his shoulder if you want. As for holding it, oops, one thing about the hands, at least this one tends to pop off, but I prefer it popping off than breaking off, so that's really not a problem by me, but you just pour that back on and that's fine. But as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, thanks Apone, neither of the hands have the trigger finger, unfortunately. Nothing a little X-Acto knife can't fix, so I'll do that later, but you can go ahead and pop that right in, and he holds it very good. In fact, you can get it into a very fine double-handed pose. So we can go ahead and we can indeed swivel that hand up despite all the augmentations that he has. And that looks pretty good. That's just fine for a figure that has a few little aesthetic choices over here. Putting the shotgun aside, let's get to the more crazy accessories, because actually I think this is the first time we've ever reviewed a Kenner tribute figure, and one of those things... And one of the nuances for that line is that they usually, back in the Kenner days, they tried creating these trippy little play accessories to make the figures a little more exciting for the young'uns, and in the case of Apone over here, he has several little gimmicks. So he comes with these two grenade stick things. I have no idea how these are supposed to work. I guess he kind of just vault them around and fling a grenade at a xenomorph or something. I'm really not sure what the physics behind it is, but they're both identical, looking pretty cool. But the play feature that the original Kenner figure wanted you to do was to get them to swing around on something a little bit more malleable. So you can remove a grenade, like so, over here. Then you have two of these extra bendy parts over here. So we can go ahead and plug one of these in. And then you can see there's a bendy wire here, so it can look more, I guess, kinetic as he's flailing it around, about to just smash it right into someone's face. So let's try out both options. So here's a bendy one, which is not my preference, but it's still nice that they give you the option if you do want to go a little bit more of the retro route. And yeah, it looks alright. It's not my favorite, but it's nice that it still works out. I mean, it's bendy. You can get in whatever direction you like. Get out here. It looks like he's kind of swinging it around, like right towards your head or something. Looks pretty threatening, all things considered. You can also get the standard staff version, which I prefer a lot more. And that also looks pretty good. Again, more so like you could fling it at somebody. I just think it's a pretty interesting little option. But another thing you can do, no matter what option you choose, is he does have 2 peg holes on the back of the harness. So you do have the pegs on the grenade, and then you can plug it in. As unsafe as I'm sure that is, that seems like a perfect way to die, especially if you have your back face towards an opponent. Now, even though this figure didn't quite exist during what I'd call the golden age of NECA figures, being like the Universal Monsters and the Ultimate re-releases of the Predators, their articulation is still pretty good, nothing to laugh at, really. So we have a good amount of tilt, we got some forward, we got a tad back, not a ton, got all the swivel you want. As for the arms, we'll look at them individually because they are different. There's no bicep cut, but you do have a swivel all the way around. Hinges out to 90. As for the elbows, not quite 90, but still not too bad. This hand articulation is actually great. It's got an extended ball almost. It's got like an extended peg right in there as you saw, but it can go all the way up, all the way down, maybe more than it even should, and then in and out, but again, it kind of has a tendency of popping out, which, again, I don't mind. If I gotta pop it in once in a while, and that means better articulation, then fine by me. That's totally okay. As for this arm, obviously it's going to be a little more hindered because of the cybernetic improvements, but he does have a little bit of swivel, and then you do want to watch the hydraulics there as you move it up to not quite 90. Same deal with the elbows, gets a little stuck. And goes straight back out though. As for the hand, it's pretty much just a swivel. And no, you can kind of, there's still a little malleability in the robotic plastic over there, so you can still get a little down, a little up, a little out, a little in. As for the torso, just a ball. You can swivel it, you can bend it tad forward, tad back, and then you have no tilt really. But be careful no matter what you do, because you do have those harness straps on the front as well as on the back. You don't want anything snapping. Nothing in the waist here. As for the legs, they actually kick forward pretty good. As for back, also not too bad. Knees are double jointed. You kind of got to find the one that meets the boot, but it is there. And even though it's double jointed, it still pretty much just hits just past 90. It doesn't give you a whole lot more than that. As for ankles, got a little bit back. I think it's on a ball. You got some forward, and you got a little bit of rocker. Actually, overall, I'm pretty pleased. I don't think he needs more articulation than this. I think he's great. He's a lot of fun. Oh, and the one little bonus I forgot to mention is he comes with this little sticker sheet, which is meant to once again harken back to the original Kenner figure, where they give you a little sticker sheet to customize your figure. I really love that they included this, but at the same time, I don't really know where I would include it on the figure. I mean, definitely on the back of the hat, I think. I think his name, Apone, would look pretty good, or the American flag would also be nice. But everything else here has all these complex little curves and bends and folds and everything, so I don't know where else to put any of these. Maybe a little bit here would be kind of cool, but aside from those two surfaces, I'm really not too sure. Might keep these here or might use them for other figures. They're still pretty neat. Now let's go ahead and move on to the Prorotype Alien, which is another figure that I've seen around before, but it never really caught my eye until recent days. Don't know why. I just looked at it and I suddenly went, this is very interesting. First things first about the box, this is directly inspired by the original packaging for the very first Xenomorph figure ever released, and some fun toy trivia behind that is that was one of those figures that was considered a little bit too scary for the audiences at the time, so I think it actually got pulled from shelves, so that was pretty infamous as a toy. But here we are again, we got it as a tribute box effectively, almost tempted to keep the box and then use it as a display like the alien is breaking out of the box or something like that. But yeah, I got that good retro aesthetic. Going off to the side, you got a good profile image of the figure. Got over here, Alien 40th Anniversary. I forgot that's also another important part of this figure. Got the Alien prototype suit to differentiate it from its standard big chap counterpart. Got the figure once again on the back. Also got a more lengthy bio over here to read if you prefer. Then down here we have some other figures from the wave, none of which I have ever seen in person. I don't know why, I just have never seen an Ellen Ripley on the shelf before. Off to the bottom, we got the fine artist who made this figure possible, and then we also got our usual logos, which we've already gone through, so we're not going to do it again. Now, here is our Geiger alien, as I prefer to call him, just based on the artist. And every time I touch this figure, I just fall a little bit more in love with it. I mean, the thing that deterred me from it is 100% the exact same sculpt as the re-released, well, retooled rather, Ultimate Big Chap figure, which I also have that we'll look at in size comparisons. So I figure it's a repaint with less accessories. Why would I want this? But at the same time, if you know me and you know my reviews, I'm a sucker for concept art, especially with Star Wars and things like that. We also had a look at Predators, and there's also the infamous Gort Predator, which has the original mask we would have seen in the original Predator movie. But in this case, we have a figure based on the original look of the Xenomorphs, and in that artwork from Geiger, it was very almost celestial, otherworldly, very mysterious looking, and also the same place where we got the original Engineer, by the way, which I think I've shown off before. We will bring him back in again for size comparisons, don't you worry about that. But yeah, everything here is the exact same mold as the Ultimate Big Chap, except, of course, different type of plastic for translucency, and also a little bit more creative license with the paint. And I think my absolute favorite part of this figure is the head. One of my disappointments with the Big Chap, which is not a fault of the figure itself, it was so screen accurate, is that it didn't show off the skeletal eyes that it had underneath this shell. But here you have full exposure to everything. You see all the mechanical and skeletal details, and that's one of the great things about this figure. Because it is in lighter colors, you can more appreciate the sculpt work that has gone into not just the Xenomorph, but also the original concept art that made it possible. And it looks absolutely beautiful throughout. I mean, it's one of those designs that's so spooky and iconic that I can't really describe everything that's going on here. I mean, if you've seen a Xenomorph, you have an idea of what we're looking at here. Mostly just different colors, effectively, but yeah, I just love the translucency, the shininess, the polish, the gloss. All of it just comes together to make a very beautiful looking figure. Even though he lacks in accessories, I think the look is really what takes this guy all the way home. Again, especially the head. Although he does have a few other extra features. He has the trademarked inner jaw, which kind of falls right out. That's one thing I would prefer they would have figured out by now, is a way to lock in the jaw so it kind of stays in there. They can kind of just has, oh, no, there you are, I just figured it out. They kind of just have an open mouth and that's it, but you can kind of find a sweet spot, as I've just done, where he kind of stays in, but nudge it a little bit, it kind of just slots right out. So it would have been nice to have like a click or a spring, or just something to hold it in there, but go ahead and pour that back in so it doesn't get in the way. The other thing you can do with this figure is you can pop out this back fin, I suppose, drop it to the side, so that way you can have just a little bit more back movement in the head. Not a ton more, like you can't have him looking straight out like some of the more modern alien designs, but still, it's kind of cool that you have that feature. But for me, as per the concept art, I prefer to have this one standing upright, so just to make him vary a little bit more next to his other Xenomorph brethren. So anyhow, since he has no accessories, let's just go right into articulation. We already looked at the jaw. As for the head, he's actually got some tilt. I wasn't expecting that, but also got some swivel, but you do want to be careful because he does have these two tubes off to the sides, looking really sweet. He has a little bit of up. If you turn a little bit to the side, you can kind of keep the fin in there without removing it, so that's pretty neat. You can go down just a little bit to look down on his human prey. As for the arms, they swivel all the way around. Got to bend it out. It kind of V's because of those really beautiful and regal looking neck pieces, if I may call them that. As for the elbows, they are double jointed, which is great. So you can get him almost in a fetal position, like he's being birthed or something like that if you want. Comes back straight out. As for the wrists, they are pinned and hinged differently from Apone. They come in that much, they go back out, and they can also swivel it, so that way you can go up and down, just like so. As to the torso, just under the pecs or the abs or whatever, you got a ball that allows them to swivel. You can come that much forward, good deal back. He's also got some great tilt, actually much better than I thought. As for legs, come out that far. As for going back, gets a little bit stuck on the butt. That's pretty much what we expect. As for knees, they are also double jointed, yes, so they can come up all the way back down. As for the ankles, they got a little bit back. It's kind of a weak point. A little bit forward. You got toe articulation, a little stiff over here, but you got that if you prefer. And then you also have a little bit of side-to-side rocker. I adore this figure. I love him a lot more than I thought I would. Might even like him more than the generic Big Chap, to be honest. Here we are at size comparisons, having both these figures kind of vanillaed up in pretty basic poses. Over here we have the ultimate release of the Big Chap Predator. Alien, sorry. It's easy to get them confused. Over here we have an actual Predator, being the ultimate Jungle Hunter. Now we can go ahead and move these aside as you look at some other figures. We have the Comic-Con exclusive Sewer Mutation Alien, which is based on the Alien's body, not to be confused with the Alien body, though they are very different once you believe it. But let's go ahead and stand him up for you. There we are. Get the toe articulation. And it seems like he is apparently taller than Big Chap once you believe it, but this is one of my favorite NECA figures, I think, just in terms of the color palette. I just think he's really cool. Let's also go ahead and remove Predator from the picture as we bring in our engineer from Prometheus, looking really good. I actually have 2 more of these unarmored variants coming in the mail, so we'll be looking at those soon too as well. But of course, every single review must end with Star Wars The Black Series Mecha Muck! Hey, wait, is that Muck Muck?
Holy crap, it's Apone, everyone's favorite!
You son of a bitch! That's about all for these Alien figures, both of which I didn't really realize I needed until I really thought about it. As for the Geiger Alien that we have over here, you know me, I love concept art, I think it's great, and also that just gives us a chance to look at one of the best sculpts that NECA's ever put out, and have a chance with the new color palette to see the really awesome details and just appreciate it just a little bit more. Especially now that we have the fully transparent head shell over there, so we can see the skull going all the way back, and we got little human eye sockets in there. I just really love that. It's just a nice, this is just a very good reason to have a repaint. It harkens back to some concept artwork, and it also gives you a chance to appreciate a sculpt that we already love just a little bit more. As for Apone, a character I didn't really think much about before getting this figure, but, when it comes down to it, it's hard to find human figures to stand against any Alien or Predator figure, really. So he's just a nice shoe-in to have if you don't have a Dutch or a Ripley, which I definitely do not have, because those are really hard to get these days. So he's a good shoe-in, and he's just a lot of fun, too. He's got a lot of cool accessories, some a little bit more wacky if you prefer. He's just a good colonial marine to throw in there to go toe-to-toe with any aliens that you got on your shelf. He's very good. So that's a cap. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please, as per usual, be sure to like, comment,
and subscribe. Or leave a bad review for your favorite comic book movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Thanks once again. Hope you're enjoying the start of your week. Rock on, and I will see you all later. So that's pretty much it for this review, although there is one more note that I want to throw in. I am going to go ahead and try setting up a Patreon. I have no idea how to do that, but if there's anyone out there who really loves this channel and the content that I put out, then please do consider supporting it. I gotta figure out how to do it, how to set it up, link to the channel and all that, but once that's ready, I'll put out an announcement. If there's anyone out there who really loves the content and wants to see more, especially because I can't just keep buying every figure that I see, unfortunately, then absolutely let me know, and yeah, the Patreon one day will come to fruition, and we'll work with that. So that's pretty much all for now. I'll keep you posted, though.